Hello, this is Encounters with Life. I'm Sean Abigail, your host. Well, as a political movement, the left is unstable. Now, I do not mean that every person who votes on the left is unstable. Of course not. Many fine people on the left who think that this is the best way towards a better society, a more just society, and so on. And that's all fine. But as a political movement, the left is unstable. Let me explain. So what we see in the left is a series of causes, and the cause comes out of nowhere. No one's ever heard of it, and then within a week or two, it becomes the most important thing ever. And everybody has to jump on the bandwagon. Everybody has to support this with unswerving, undivided loyalty. You have to give your all to this new cause, whatever it is. And your virtue is defined by whether you unswervingly accept the current dogma. And if you do not, then you are lacking virtue. You are a Nazi. You are worse than a Nazi. I mean, Hitler kicked off a war that killed 70 million people. But if you do not subscribe to the latest dogma of the left, you are worse than a Nazi. And we see this over and over again. And then what happens? The movement disappears. It no longer becomes the most important thing ever because another movement has come along, which is the most important thing ever. So we can think about, I hate to say it, I still hate to say it, but global warming. Well, it's not global warming. If the temperature goes up, it's climate change. If the temperature goes down, it's climate change. They've got the perfect theory. It fits all the data because no matter what happens, they say it's evidence for their position. But you know, this was the most important thing ever. This is the existential crisis of our time. And now you can actually make a video and say, you know, I don't think that climate change is caused by human beings. I can do that now. I have the freedom to do that. Why? Because it is no longer the most important thing ever. Think about Occupy Wall Street. Movement came out of nowhere. It became the most important thing ever. And you had to subscribe to it, and you had to follow it, and you had to give your devotion to it. And remember when some of the protesters got pepper sprayed. I don't like the idea that people getting pepper sprayed, but some of the protesters got pepper sprayed, and we were told like this was the worst thing ever. This was worse than students at Kent State University getting shot by National Guard soldiers in the 60s. This is like, guys, they got pepper sprayed. I mean, people get pepper sprayed outside bars all the time. So it was the most important thing ever. And one day it just disappeared. It's just no longer a thing because the left, in their instability, has moved on to something else. And then we saw Black Lives Matter. Like, let's burn down cities, let's burn down police stations, let's say that police should no longer police the areas that they're entrusted with. Let's make that the most important thing ever. What you believe on this one cause is the most important thing ever. And then, well, a few people got rich off of it, but for the most part, it's disappeared. And you know what? Most of the problems that affect Black communities in North America, primarily the States, but also in Canada, most of those problems are still there. Then came the trans movement. And you know what? There's always been people who, you know, had drag shows and things like that. They did their thing. Not too many people paid any attention. No one really cared. They did their thing. But now this has become the most important thing ever. And whether you are a virtuous person or not is defined by your support for the trans movement. And we're told if you do not agree with their current dogma, then you literally want children to die. Like this, like you are just hoping that children will die if you don't subscribe to their dogma. But you know what? That's on its way out as well. I can see signs that it's fading away. What about the Free Palestine movement? That's been getting a lot of press, and there's still protests going on. But I would suggest to people who are attending these protests, don't get too excited because the left is going to leave you. They are going to get tired of you. They're going to move on to the next most important thing ever. And that's just the way it is with the left, because as a political movement, not the individuals, but as a political movement, the left is unstable. And then here's one, the hate Elon movement. So Elon Musk was a hero for the left. He was making electric cars, making excellent electric cars, cars that could compete with the internal combustion engine and so on. And he was very, very popular. And then he committed the unpardonable sin. He identified with Republicans. The left moved on from him. He stayed where he was, and he was more comfortable with the Republicans. Well, that's the unpardonable sin in the eyes of the left. And burning Teslas has now become a thing. It is the most important thing ever. If you show your resistance against Elon, that you hate Elon enough, then you are a virtuous person. I saw a bumper sticker the other day. It said, I bought this Tesla before I realized Elon was crazy. In other words, to my fellow leftists, please don't burn my Tesla. I'm one of the good guys. But you know what? That's not going to help you. They're still going to burn your Tesla. I think it was Tim Pool the other day who was saying how Stephen Colbert, previously he got applause for buying a Tesla, like, you know, virtue signal, I've done it, I'm one of the good guys. And then now he's like, well, let's make jokes about burning Teslas. Because the political left, as a movement, is unstable. They're always looking for the next thing, and then they will drop the previous thing like a hot potato. So next time that they come along and say, this is the most important thing ever, you have to subscribe to the dogma, you have to accept everything we're saying uncritically, use critical thinking. Try to understand whether this movement is actually going to help the people that it claims to help, or whether it's just one more expression of a 2 minutes of hate. But now let me talk about the alternative. And the alternative is the political right. Because as the left has gone through all these different most important thing ever movements, the political right has said, you know, strong families are important. Freedom of speech is important. Let's build strong economies. And if we build strong economies, then we have the money to share with the needy. And just like that's consistently the message of the political right. The political left goes out of their minds on whatever the latest thing is, and the political right stays stable. And that's the way it is. Well, that's what I think. So let me, please leave a comment. I love to hear your comments, and please consider subscribing to this channel. I'm trying to make content that people find maybe interesting, maybe a little thought-provoking. Maybe you disagree with me. That's quite possible, and it's okay to disagree with me. If you do, I would just ask that you express yourself well and explain why it is that you think that I'm wrong. Anyway, I'm Sean Abigail. That's Encounters with Life.